Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. After the governor's State of the State address, we have opinion from both sides, Democrat and Republican, and from the Assembly and the Senate. On the rundown today, Senator Bob Beers and Assembly Majority Leader Barbara Buckley. Meanwhile, on the Power Pundit panel today, Keith Lee, Martha Gould, and Liz McMenamin. It's all coming up next on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
Many of the materials we rely on every day come from the ground, and modern mining technology brings them to us cleaner and safer than ever before. To learn more about America's natural resources, visit nma.org, the National Mining Association.
Where do I want to go?
Me? Denver.
Anchorage, Alaska.
Atlanta. Vancouver.
Chicago.
We can help you get where you need to be or want to be.
Yankee
Reno
Stadium.
Tahoe International
Fenway
Airport. Anytime, any place, anywhere.
Anywhere.
Minneapolis.
St. Paul.
Over 170 daily flights, nonstop service to 19 cities and connections everywhere else. Reno Tahoe International Airport, dedicated to moving you.
Jupiter.
If it's hot, it's here at the Pepper Mill. The Pepper Mill has over 500 of the hottest video theme slots. And with the $100,000 Winter Video Theme Slot Fest, there's no smarter time to play these winning machines. Win your share of the money with $2,000 random cash giveaways every Monday and $5,000 drawings every Friday. And new players can get up to $100 free play.
The slots that rock are at the Pepper Mill. Where are you winning?
When you need a new employee, how can you be sure who you're really hiring? A background investigation by Employer Links will uncover criminal records, verify the applicant's education, check their credit history and Social Security verification. An investigation will research professional licenses and driver's licenses and let you know why they're unemployed. Hiring the right person shouldn't be a gamble. Call Employer Links. Employer Links, protecting your investment. This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And we're joined by Senator Bob Beers. Welcome to the program, Bob.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, your response to the governor's speech last night.
I thought it was a pretty good speech. Let me preface all this by saying I think, as everyone knows from last session, I would prefer to see us go back to the old rate of growth that Nevada's government used to grow at, which was pretty much commensurate with population growth and inflation. It would appear from the outcome of the elections that the citizens disagree with that, and so I will go forth preaching whatever fiscal responsibility I can and making sure that we spend the money we end up spending as intelligently as possible.
Okay. Reports from Senator Raggio that the surplus is somewhere around $830 million. Nevada Taxpayers Association says it's closer to $1 billion. We're rebating $300 million. And it looks like the governor has accounted for the rest.
Well, actually, I brought a little Ross Perot here. I don't know if you can see this at home, but...
Yeah, we'll put it up on the screen.
Okay. The surplus, as you noted, was many of us thought was going to be bigger than the 300 and some odd thousand that has been discussed.
300 million.
Or 300 million. In fact, apparently the governor says that the 300 million is it, or the 350. However, what is interesting is that we ended up with additional new money above and beyond what we all thought. And so I think in the end that you're going to end up with a graph that looks like this. If in fact this is true, then what we're probably doing here is taking one-time surplus money and spending it on ongoing salaries, which would be, in my opinion, a grave error for the state. That's the kind of money you would either look at building capital infrastructure with, or if, I ran the zoo, giving refunds to taxpayers who have been overcharged.
Okay, for the uninitiated, capital infrastructure, what do you mean by that?
Capital infrastructure is buildings, schools, the buildings that we need to run our state government, things that involve a one-time expenditure of money. Yes, they involve an ongoing operational cost, but the bulk of the capital cost happens up front, and it's the perfect thing to do with a surplus if the political environment is such that we can't give it back to the taxpayers who are overcharged.
Okay, now, it seems to me that what the governor has done this time around is what he wasn't able to get through the last session with this surplus he is doing this session. Is that about right?
I think that there are some patterns. The other bit of interesting information is our spending priorities, which is this graph here. I think we've got a shot
we'll put that up too.
And this shows that education spending went down as a percentage of our overall spending. Public safety went down, human services went up, and other went up. I think that continues a trend that we saw 2 years ago, and I think it's clearly an expression of our governor's philosophy that the human services component of what we do needs to be built up more than the education or public safety sectors of what we do.
But isn't that kind of surprising, because the governor kind of prides himself as the education governor?
It was a great speech. It was one of his better delivered speeches, I thought. It was a good speech.
But as far as the numbers go,
he's a human services governor.
Okay.
And, parts of human services involve us putting effort into helping people who can't help themselves. I fear that parts of our human service effort, particularly as we expand it, are going into people who can help themselves. And when I compare an effort like that to better funding for our schools and creating accountability for our school system, I like the latter myself.
Okay. Were you surprised on the subject of property taxes, especially for the folks in Clark County, that the governor said, we need to look at it, you guys have a good discussion? Lively.
Not really. The point of the State of the State speech, I think, is for the governor to outline the budget proposal. And the property tax issue really is a peripheral impactor on state spending plans. And he acknowledged that it was a legislative issue facing us, that we'll have to deal with it. And I think he is sincere in understanding the importance of the issue. But it's not really a part of his budget, and so that's, it was kind of outside the germane area of his speech that he said what he said.
You had proposed spending an additional $50 million in the next biennium. The governor put in $100 million for mental health. Were you pleased about that?
Yeah, in Las Vegas, we have a pretty serious problem. I was up here in Sparks for the Government Financial Officers annual conference 2 weeks ago. And that's where I talked to a number of people about how important this issue is to the operations of all aspects of our government. In Las Vegas, if you get in a car accident, you're going to wait in a waiting room for treatment. They're triaging to the point where a mere broken limb doesn't get immediate attention, because these beds are filled with people who are on mental illness holds, awaiting mental treatment, but we don't have the facilities to give that to them. There's a couple different ways we can go around dealing with this problem. It wasn't really a problem until a couple of years ago, when somehow, through a combination of politics and bad policy, a facility was closed that basically handled the incoming once they were medically cleared at emergency rooms for later distribution to the mental health system. And that we closed down somehow, and we need to get that back going.
I want to go back to one other thing here. In the budget, the governor didn't address a couple of things that have been talked about constantly on this program, which is the need to fix some of the problems with the tax base that we had from the last session. The banks, for example, the entertainment tax. There was no accommodation for that mentioned.
And that's also part of what the legislature will be looking at. It's pretty rare for a governor's budget to change very much from the governor's recommendation. That may be one of the changes that this legislature ends up implementing, because my sense is that there is some appetite amongst our legislators to trim back some of that tax excess tax system excess?
Yeah, because basically from what the governor said, we're not changing the way we're going to be collecting these taxes, and the gaming and the property taxes, sales taxes are still going to be booming here over the next couple of years, correct?
Presumably. The interesting statistic released just this morning was the statewide unemployment numbers. In Clark County, unemployment is down again. The rest of the state, it's up just a little bit. The biggest sector of job growth in Las Vegas is construction, almost 11% more jobs today than a year ago. Second biggest sector, interestingly enough, is government.
A quick yes or no answer. You going to be running for governor in 2006?
I have not made any such decision at this point. I'm concentrating on my duties in this legislative session, and we'll see what comes down the road.
Bob Beers, always a pleasure. Thanks
yes
for being
or no,
here.
Did you say that?
We'll be right back after this.
Nevada Newsmakers, brought to you in part by Sunbelt Communication.
Siegfried and Roy presents Darren Romeo.
There's magic in his voice, and there's music in his magic.
Brilliant young talent like this is very rare.
The music of the night.
I'm Darren Romeo.
Unbelievable. Wow. Fantastic.
Dinner and show package from $27.95. Call the Eldorado at 786-5700.
Something spectacular has taken wing not far from Reno or Lake Tahoe, and never far from your mind. An escape of fine dining and legendary golf. Introducing the resort at Red Hawk. And at the center of it all, we've feathered our nest with new villas that have elevated Red Hawk to the status of a premier resort. The Resort at Red Hawk, a beautiful new arrival in northern Nevada.
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad.
And we welcome the Assembly Majority Leader to the program, Barbara Buckley. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
Governor's State of the State last night. Your initial reactions to it?
Well, I think my overall reaction was some parts I like, other parts I thought were kind of short on solutions.
Let's talk about the parts you liked.
There were a few items in there that the governor mentioned support for that some of us Democrats have been working for a very long time, one of which is trying to restructure our health care expenditures to provide more health insurance for individuals. We have the fourth worst uninsured rate in the country. And one of the proposals that we have coming forward is instead of paying for health insurance by paying for emergency room treatment, pregnant women, for example, we have about 3,000 pregnant women living at Washoe Med and UMC every year with no health insurance. We're finding a way to change that budget to provide health insurance at the outset. The governor announced funding for that. So some items like that make a lot of sense, and I'm very supportive of.
Okay, were there other things that you liked? I want to see if we can get to 3.
You want to see if we can get to 3? Okay, well, I support the funding for the Cancer Institute and the Alzheimer's Center. I think those, we need to make strides in public health. So I certainly support that. Support funding our growth needs in education. Support that. That's 3.
Okay. All right. Now, what didn't you like, or what were you concerned about?
Well, some of, I think, the biggest problems facing our state is the state of our educational system. Having textbooks and instructional supplies, well-equipped libraries for every child, funding innovations in education, health care, affordable prescription drugs for seniors, assisted living programs for seniors. And there weren't a lot, it was pretty, short, I thought, in solutions in those areas.
It seemed to me in a lot of ways that the governor was just kind of throwing it at the legislature and saying, last time, I came out with all these specific plans and I just got shot down. Mm-hmm. So this time I'm going to come up with the general ideas and you guys figure it out.
I think that's a fair assessment. I think a lot of people felt that. And from our point of view, as Democrats, we're going to propose some specific ideas to fulfill some of the blanks that I think were left in the speech. One of our top concerns is the middle class. A lot of money, the governor announced some money to help schools that are at risk, but I think we leave behind no pun intended by referencing No Child Left Behind, but I think what we leave behind is the middle class. We leave behind those schools that want to do innovation. They want money for extra reading programs, literacy programs. We never talk about that. We never fund innovation. We have some great new programs where principals are trying to do like a school within a school to work on especially ninth graders who feel like lost in these huge high schools. We hear nothing about that, and that's where we want to try to fill in some gaps.
I guess the question that always arises when we speak this way is, where's the money going to come from? We do have a large surplus this year, but we're not going to guarantee to see that in the future. So how do we pay for it?
Well, you know, instead of solely setting aside a trust fund for at-risk schools, I think what we should do is fund innovation in schools, things that work in every school. We have some remarkable success stories throughout the state. We never hear about them.
Well, to be honest, the governor did bring up a couple last night, three different ones.
He did, but you know, we hear about it for 3 minutes. One of the things, Bonnie Parnell, who's the new chair of the Education Committee, one of the things she's going to do early on in the session is spend a couple weeks talking about innovation. What's happening, what can be replicated, and I think we need to do more of that.
You know, interesting, I think the Anderson Elementary School program, where the increase in reading and math has just shown such dramatic improvements. Maybe it's just, you know, part of it is getting back to the more of the basics.
I think so, and I think a lot of it too, especially at the high school level, is that kids get lost. You know, the old days, all the teachers knew every single one of the kids. Well, there's reforms that you can do that. You know, requiring that there be one counselor or one teacher assigned to every 20 kids to track attendance. So that, I mean, you know, when you look at the high school rate, the number of dropouts, I mean, it's appalling. The graduation rate, it's appalling. And we got to reverse those trends.
What did you think of the governor's comments about the property tax situation, specifically in Southern Nevada?
Well, I'm pleased to hear that he wants to see a lively debate. I hate those dull debates.
Were you surprised he wasn't more? He's going to be here tomorrow. I'm going to ask him about this, of course. But were you surprised he wasn't more specific?
Yeah, I was a little bit.
Because isn't this like the biggest problem that the state is facing right now because of the population base?
It is, yeah. It's the largest issue. There's 14 proposals out there, and I was a little surprised to hear no suggestions or solutions proposed. As I understand it, the Speaker is going to start the property tax hearings the second day of session, Tuesday the 9th, and or 8th or 9th, first thing right off the bat. So I think we'll have presentations of problems, the issues, as well as kind of an airing of all 14 solutions that are currently on the table.
How do you think the new public employees are going to feel about this proposed cut in medical benefits? Do you think that's going to fly?
You know, I think there was a sense of everybody just being really puzzled by that suggestion. I mean, the state employees are paid less than the county employees, and this is one benefit that they had. And you know, what's still not really clear to me is, well, what health insurance are they going to get? You can't just have somebody fall through the cracks, especially when we have the 4th highest uninsured rate in the nation. So we're going to propose cutting more people off health insurance. I think there's a lot of questions. I mean, it's one thing if someone can get Medicare or another health insurance product, but if those aren't available, I think there was just kind of a sense of, why do we want to create more uninsured?
Let me talk, we just have a few seconds here, but the 2% per year raises for state employees and teachers, et cetera, is that enough, or do you think it's going to end up being 3% by the time it comes out of the legislature?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, certainly that's going to be something that's looked at. What is the inflation rate? Should it be 2, you know, or 3? Should it be 2 one year, 3 the other year? I mean, you know, one of the things is that we talk about how education is our #1 priority, and then we don't keep up with inflation and pay increases for teachers. Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
And it doesn't make a lot of sense, but we got to take a break here to make some money. It's always a pleasure having you here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Barbara Buckley. We'll be right back on Nevada Newsmakers with the Pundits after this.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
Enjoy daily lunch specials in the Peppermills Coffee Shop and Oceano, plus early bird specials at the Steakhouse and Romanza. It's Reno's best value.
Thanks to an ongoing commitment by America's mining companies, more than 2 million acres already have been reclaimed. To learn more about reclamation or other aspects of mining, visit nma.org, the National Mining Association.
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad.
And we're joined on the pundit panel today by two good friends of the program, Martha Gould, Washoe County Democrat, and attorney Keith Lee. Liz McMenamin was going to join us, but due to some serious weather conditions on the roads today, there are several major accidents, and she's been delayed. So let's start out, Keith. You were down there at the session.
I was.
What did you think?
Well, I thought the governor's speech last night was, I will classify it as very serviceable.
What does that mean?
Well, it means that it was far short of spectacular. He was able to get what he felt were important aspects of his agenda out. I was disappointed in that I think he had the opportunity to show some leadership in the property tax issue. I think, as Barbara said earlier, there's 13, 14, 15 bill drafts already on what we're going to do with this property tax issue. It's going to be overwhelming, I think, this session. If anything slows down the session and we can't get out in 120 days, I think it's going to be the property tax debate. And I think the governor should have said something beyond, well, I expect lively debate on that issue. I think being the governor and being the leader, you have to set the agenda. And I was disappointed he didn't do that. I'm disappointed. I don't think it's good public policy to rebate those tax dollars. I think that they need to be either put in the rainy day fund, or we need to look at, as Barbara said earlier today, we need to look at school teachers and what we can do to help that process.
There's an awful lot of viewers out there right now who are seething at your comment there. I mean, they are looking forward to getting that rebate.
Let me tell you something. This state has never created a sensible policy in terms of how we handle our fiscal matters or we set our taxes. There's no political, courage to do this. So every session we tweak things here and we tweak things there. Rebate is not good public policy. It is not good fiscal policy.
Overtaxing the citizens also isn't.
Come on, they get services in return for their tax dollars.
I agree with Martha there, and I don't know we're overtaxing. And I would say to those out there who don't spend that rebate until you actually have it in the bank. I mean, read the political tea leaves in the comments of Senator Raggio and of Minority Leader Hetrick. You read those read the tea leaves there, and I'm not sure that there's going to be a lot of support for this rebate among leadership. And without the support of leadership, particularly leadership in the governor's own party, it ain't going to happen.
But take it away from just the state level and look at what's happening at the national level and what the trickle-down impact is going to be on services that the state is mandated to provide. Hello, folks.
But you know what?
Where's the reality here?
Well, I think the reality is that we thought that there was going to be a shortfall, and so therefore we raised up. The plan was to raise up about $800 million, and what we've ended up here is beyond that, pretty close to $1 billion surplus, and out of that, $300 million is being. I mean, even Bob Beers started out by saying, "Give the public back $100."
The two largest sources of income for this state rely heavily on tourism. If we have, God forbid, another 9/11 type of event, or we go into just a recession like we did in 80-81, which were severe and impacted this state severely, then these legislators who may vote to give a rebate back this session, those legislators or their successors are going to be back in 2, 4, 6, 8 years raising those taxes again. Now, is that smart public policy?
I'll tell you, the public policy in terms of taxes in this state.
You don't think that they're going to be back trying to raise taxes in 10 years anyway?
Well,
Aesop's fable, the ant and the grasshopper. Well, I think we better be ants, not grasshoppers. We need to plan for the future. We need to use some of that money for the rainy day fund. We need to look at infrastructure that. You don't know what's going to happen 2 years or 3 years. Be sensible.
I mean, we can always put more in the rainy day fund. We're not capped by state law at $200 million.
And there are so many crying needs that have not been met in this state. The state is growing. The demand for services is going to continue to grow.
And let me just say one other thing with respect to taxes. Although the governor didn't mention it last night in his State of the State address, I think you're going to see a reduction in the fee or the taxes and fees that banks pay. I think you're going to see something with some relief with respect to the branch franchise fee, and I think
possible.
you may very well see some reduction in the percent of payroll tax banks now pay.
And that wasn't included.
That was not included.
Well, you know, when you
but
talk...
there's probably next to property tax relief, there are the second number of bill draft requests deal with the bank franchise and bank taxes. So I think you're going to see some movement.
When you look at the governor's speech, and I came away saying the truth is going to lie in the details, and certainly we did not hear a lot about details.
I got a package of the details late yesterday afternoon, and it's very thick. So there's a lot of details there, but I will leave that to others to come up with. Keith, do you think that we're going to see people lining up for public employee jobs with medical benefits being cut?
I don't know.
You got about 10 seconds.
The answer is I don't think it's going to have any effect whatsoever. I really don't believe many people who want to be employed by the state look at that as a reason for seeking employment with the state.
And we are out of time. We'll be right back on Nevada Newsmakers. Thanks, guys. After this.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
For a hole in your roof or a whole new roof, Ken Dillon, owner of Van Dyne Roofing, can get it fixed with his eyes closed.
I tell you, John, this industry has really changed.
Tell me about it.
You seemed to do pretty well last year. What's your secret?
No secrets. Although I'll tell you something. The smartest thing I did was sign up with Pro Group Management.
Really? Yeah, they do workers' comp, right?
Yeah, their services are great. And get this, they saved me 30%. I've heard they saved others 50%.
That works for me.
Pro Group Management. Finally, workers' comp that works for you.
It's the next best thing to having your own wine cellar. Come to the Bonanza Casino for a first and fine dining, reasonably priced wines. When you dine at Cactus Creek Southwestern Steakhouse, you can also enjoy a fine bottle of wine at just about the same price you'd pay at the Vineyard, Silver Oak, Robert Mondavi, Rombauer, Cakebread, Jordan, and Duckhorn, just to name a few. And at the lowest prices of any restaurant or casino in Northern Nevada. And remember, all fine wines are not in wine cellars. They're in the Cactus Creek at the Bonanza Casino where locals come to play.
If you own a business and want to maximize your company's potential, join the Retail Association of Nevada. Our membership benefits include the Nevada Retail Network Self-Insured Group, providing workers' compensation coverage that can lower your rates. That savings can go directly to your bottom line. We are an effective pro-business organization that lobbies on behalf of our business members. The Retail Association of Nevada, protecting Nevada businesses for 35 years.
The guest for the whole show tomorrow is Governor Kenny Gwinn. So if you have questions for the governor, make them short and sweet and send them to me at newsmakers@kvbc.com and newsmakers@krnv.com, and I'll try to ask them for you. Thanks for being here. We'll see you tomorrow with the governor for the whole show.